Hi everybody and welcome to Birdsnest Designs. My name is Denise Cox and I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in Canada, and today I'm here to share with you a really awesome fun fold card. Now this idea and this fun fold came from a fellow demonstrator, Melissa Faust, so I would like to say thank you to Melissa for sharing her creativity. I've put my own little spin on the card, but this is a really fun fold that I've designed for my November Stamp of the Month Club. So our stamp of the month this month is the Frosted Gingerbread, and I love this set for Christmas. And you know, in all honesty, it could be used for so many different things. I know my scrapbook club has used it to do a baking themed layout as well. So a really awesome set that is available in the mini catalog until the end of December. So be sure to check that out. So let's get back to the card that we have here today. Again, I just love this fold. So the colors we're going to use are Real Red, Old Olive, and Cinnamon Cider. If you're a member of my club, then you've already got all of these lovely pieces already and cut for you. Now there are a lot of pieces to this card. So let's go through that one at a time here. So I've got a Real Red card base that measures 4 1/4 by 11, and it's scored at 5 1/2. So we're going to go ahead and fold that on the score line, making sure the ends line up nicely. Okay, my score line was just a bit off. And then we're going to use the bone folder to just make that really nice and crisp. Okay, so that's piece number 1, Real Red. Secondly, we have another strip of Real Red cardstock, and this one measures 11 by 1 3/8. It's scored at 2 3/4, 5 1/2, and 8 1/4. So what that's going to do is we're going to have 3 score lines, and we're going to fold it so that this one is going to go over, back, and over. Okay, so you're going to end up with a shape like this. Okay, so it's going to fold together like that. So I'm going to go ahead and burnish those folds as well. So I want them to be nice and crisp and flat. Okay, so that is our mechanism to make this fun fold card. Then we've got a piece of Old Olive that's 5 1/4 by 4, and another little strip here that's 1/2 inch by 3 3/4. So those can just get set aside for the moment. And then we've got a whole bunch of basic white. So we have 2 pieces that measure 5 1/4 by 4. We've got one that's 3 1/4 by 4 1/2. We have a scrap piece here to do some stamping. And then we have 4 squares that are 2 1/4 by 2 1/4. Okay, so all of those pieces together are going to make this really adorable card. So let's get started. The first thing I want to do is I'm going to take the front of my card and I'm going to attach my Old Olive cardstock. So this again was 4 by 5 1/4. We can just go ahead and attach that. What I'm doing is basically just getting all the pieces that can be attached right away out of the way, so that we're just dealing with one piece at a time. So there's our card front. Now that's all we can attach instantly, so let's set that aside. Now to make this card, we're going to do a lot of stamping, which I love. So we are going to use all 3 of these images here. We're going to use the cluster of 3 peppermints. We're going to use these tiny little peppermints. We're going to use this gorgeous border here, and happy holidays and wishing you a Merry Christmas. So a lot of stamping, which is super fun. So have those ready to go, or be prepared to switch out your blocks. And let's start by doing the inside. So to do that, we need our 2 4 by 5 1/4 pieces of basic white. You're going to need your Old Olive ink pad. And you're going to need this gorgeous border punch, or border stamp, sorry, not a punch. Okay, so when I open the card again to show you, you can see that this is stamped on all 4 edges. So top and bottom on both pieces. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So we're going to ink this stamp up nice and good. Okay, and it doesn't matter which way you want your border to go. I'm gonna have mine lined up with a scallop along the bottom. I'm just gonna press that down. And basically when I was lining it up, I was kind of looking at these little dots at the top and having them appear even along the top of that. Now, if you wanted to make it a little bit simpler for yourself, the other thing you can do is just take in a piece of scrap dark paper. So I've just got a piece of basic black here. And if you put your white paper on top of that, as opposed to having it on your grid paper, it does give you a little bit of a clearer picture on how to get that all lined up nicely. So again, I'm going to do the opposite side now. So scallops to the middle again, lining up those dots along the edge. And just give that a nice snap. I love, love, love how that border snaps. Okay, so there's side one, and now we're going to bring in the other piece and we're going to do exactly the same thing. So stamping all this up. Make sure your ink pads are good and juicy when you do this. You don't want it to be shy on ink because it won't look quite as nice. Stamp that down. Okay, and then exactly the same thing on the other side. Move that up. We're going to just stamp that here, like so. Ta-da! I love it. Okay, so there we've got our inside pieces. So now, before we get rid of this border punch, on the front, so on our little piece here, that again measures 3 1/4 by 4 1/2, you can see on the front of my card, I do have that same border punch or stamped here. So we're going to go ahead and stamp that as well. Let's ink this all up nicely again. And I'm going to stamp that bottom here. Perfect. Okay, awesome. So let's put this green ink pad away for the moment. Over here. Get rid of this black piece for now. We'll set that one aside and we're going to bring in our two inside and our card base that we had attached the old olive to. So now what we're going to do is we're going to attach these to the inside of the card on either side. Okay, so normally your card would only have an insert on one side. This card design, it has it on both. So go ahead and get that ink or glued in, and you can use whatever kind of adhesive you prefer. I do like using this Tombow glue recently because it does give me a little bit of flexibility to move it around a bit before it's dry, whereas the Stampin' Seal, it's pretty much once it's down, it's down. So there we go, and we'll just try and get this side lined up relatively closely. It doesn't have to be perfect, of course, but you just kind of want to have the border along the top, the red border, relatively close. Okay, so there's that. Now we're going to make the little squares that are going to go on our mechanism. So let's pull out those 4 2 1/4 inch squares that we had. And again, I'm going to use my black scrap just so I can see what I'm stamping. Okay. And as you can see on my card here, I have a bell and a snowflake. I have one that's just the peppermints and one that's a greeting with a peppermint. So we're going to go ahead and stamp those. So you are going to need all 3 ink pads. I'm going to start with my cinnamon cider. And I've got the snowflake already mounted on the acrylic block here. And I'm just going to choose one of these. Ooh, looks like there's something on my stamp. So be careful when you're doing that. If you get a piece of lint, dog hair, cat hair, or in that case, a little piece of string it looked like, it will affect the way your stamp stamps. So, oh my goodness, there's something else on that one too. So be really careful. I'm just going to go ahead and actually clean this stamp because it looks like there's something on it. So you do want to be careful of that because it's nothing worse than, you know, putting all this effort into your card and then having a little tiny piece of something ruin your image. So I'm just going to give this a quick clean. Okay, and we'll try that again. There we go. So So let's stamp our snowflake. Ta-da! I love this stamp so much. Okay, now we'll do the bell. So again, cinnamon cider. And I'm going to check this, make sure it's not all. Oh, see, something else in there too. Something tells me my cinnamon cider was somewhere it should not have been. Anyway, there we go. Okay, so I'm just going to choose one of these and we'll put the bell on it. Perfect. Okay, so I'm just going to set those two aside. Now we've got these ones. And I want to stamp, put the cinnamon cider aside. And bring back my old olive. And we're going to use the greeting, wishing you a Merry Christmas. And I'm going to stamp that in the center of one of these squares. All right, just like that. Okay, so we're done with the old olive. And now I'm going to bring in my real red. And I love this color combination for Christmas. It's so festive with the real red and the old olive, and that touch of cinnamon cider just adds that perfect touch. So now I've got my cluster here of the 3 peppermints. And we're gonna go ahead and stamp that on either edge, or corner, sorry, not edge. I'm gonna actually twist it a bit. There we go. I want a little bit of all 3. So there's one corner. And then we'll put a few in this corner. Okay, so there's square number 3 completed. Now on this one, oops, it looks like I got a little bit of ink off of the corner of my block here on here. So it's a good thing there's 2 sides to every piece of paper. We're gonna flip that on over, and then we're just gonna stamp these guys and fill this whole square randomly with our little peppermints. I love when you can do this with a stamp and make your own, designer paper so easily. Now I don't like that little hole there, so I'm just gonna strategically place this one in there, stamp it down like that. Awesome. Okay, now this is gonna be some fun. So now we're gonna bring in our mechanism that we created earlier, right here, and we're gonna lay it out so that the middle part that pops up is facing us, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to attach these to them. So I'm going to start over here on the right hand side. And you really want to make sure your adhesive is only on the red paper because you don't want it to go beyond that or it'll glue to the back. So I've actually used dimensionals to ensure that that happens. So 2 dimensionals, and I'm actually going to just put them on the center of my red. Pull that off, and then we can position our bell so that it's centered both that way and evenly this way. Okay, so there's the bell, and then we're just going to work our way this way. So now I have the wishing you a Merry Christmas. Same thing, a couple of dimensionals. Now for this one, you do want to kind of make sure that to your eye it looks even, top and bottom. Okay. Next we're going to do the snowflake. So again, dimensionals. And our snowflake, same thing. So let's just take a peek this way, make sure it's at least lined up in our eyes. There we go. And finally, we're going to do our little peppermints. Oops. I want to make sure that I have equal spacing as much as I can here, as well as keeping it lined up top to bottom. This one's being a little bit finicky, but that's okay. All right, so that's pretty good. There we go. So now there is the inside of our card. When our recipient opens it up, it's going to come up like this. So now to attach that into our card. So let's open our card up and get rid of this black piece now. And what we want to do is we want to attach this piece in here, we're only going to attach the edge pieces, okay? So this whole piece here is going to be adhesive free, and you want to line this up with the edge of the white paper. So to do that, let's add some liquid glue. Okay, I'm going to just do one side at a time. And then I'm going to attach that, and I want to make sure that it's relatively centered between the two border stamps. That looks pretty good. And I'll give it some pressure to get that stuck down. Then we're going to do the exact same thing on this side. And just lift that up, put some glue on it. Okay, and then that is going to come down. So another way you can do this is probably a little bit easier, is just keep that folded with your glue on it, and then close your card, and then that is going to make sure that it is lined up exactly where it needs to be to maintain the positioning. Okay, and just give that a little bit of a burnish with your fingers, and then when you open it, you've got this magical fold. I love it. So there we go. Isn't that adorable? So just imagine, let your imagination run wild with how many cards you could make with this type of fold. All right, so let's finish off this front. So we're gonna bring back in our stamped piece here. And we're gonna bring our real red and our little peppermints. And we're just going to stamp a couple of them on either edge. Twist it a bit so it looks more random, like this. Awesome. Okay, now remember those cute little darling peppermints? We're going to use those next. We're just going to fill in a little bit around here just to give it a little extra fun. Okay, maybe one more here. Awesome. All right, so that's that. Now we should have one more green little strip of Old Olive, and here it is right here. So we're gonna need our cinnamon cider ink again. And I'm going to stamp Happy Holidays right onto this, relatively centered, maybe a little bit more towards the right-hand side. Just like that. And then I'm going to take my scissors, I had them here a moment ago, and I'm just going to cut one of these on an angle, this edge here. Okay, so super simple, just a little something different. And then we're gonna add that onto our card. So this is gonna get put into the center. Okay, we can center that guy in there. Again, with the liquid glue, you have that little ability to just slide it on over and put it in the position you want before it dries. Okay, the key is to just use a little bit, because if you put too much, sometimes it'll come out the side. But even if that happens, it does dry clear, so it's not the end of the world. Now, our Happy Holidays is gonna go on the front with dimensionals. We're not ready to stick it down yet, but just to get everything ready, let's go ahead and throw on 3 dimensionals will be good. Like that. Okay, so that's gonna be ready to go, just like that. Now, let's set that aside and bring in our other scrap piece that we had of basic white, and we're gonna stamp on there 2 of these images. So I'm gonna choose to use the ornament. We haven't used that one yet. So I'm gonna put the ornament. Again, I'm gonna check for any random pieces. Okay, so we've got the ornament, and then we're going to stamp the bell. So whichever 2 you choose, you're just going to stamp those on, and it looks like my cinnamon cider might be running a little low on ink. So I'm just gonna try just to see if I can get a little bit better of an image by going to the outside of my ink pad for the ink, and then I'll ink this up after this video again. So let's try this bell one more time. Much better. Okay, so that's a little trick. If you're in the middle of a project and you don't really want to get your ink pad all re-inked right at the moment, just go around the outside edge of your ink pad. Typically, there's still going to be ink there as opposed to the center, because when we go to stamp, most of us go right to the center. So let's just do that. Definitely better. Okay, so I am just going to go on over and pop these out using my gingerbread dies, and I'll be right back with those already cut out. If you don't have the dies, then just fussy cut those guys out. They're really not hard. It's a nice, simple, smooth image. So get going on that, and I'll be right back. All right, so here we go. Magic of TV. I've got my bell and my ornament already cut out. I did want to show you guys these adorable gingerbread dies. They're fabulous. So as you can see, you can stamp and then cut the images out using the outside edge dies. The other thing you can do is cut out the outer edge in whatever color you want. So in this case, perhaps like a craft paper or a cinnamon cider. And then if you take this and cut it out in white or silver and put it on top, you're going to get a three-dimensional layered look, which is going to be super awesome for an ornament or a cookie or whatever it is you're creating on your project. So these dies are phenomenal. You can also do the same thing by cutting circles out in white and these little toppers in red and green to create peppermints. So it's a really awesome stamp set, and look at that die there. It coordinates with the similarities of the border stamp that we used earlier. So these are fabulous. All right, now let's finish this card off. So we've got our ornament and our bell and our greeting. We've got some dimensionals. We all know how much I love to use dimensionals. The more dimension, the better. So we'll get these all stuck up here. 2 on the back is plenty. They're not going to go anywhere. These adhesives, dimensional adhesives are super sticky, so you don't have to worry about them falling off. So let's go ahead and put the bell down below here. I'm going to put on a slight angle like it's ringing, and we'll put the ornament up here like so. We'll take our adhesives off of the backing off of our dimensionals here. We'll go ahead and we'll lay that on here. I'm hoping, good. So I was really hoping that my dimensional wasn't going to land on top. So there we go. There's our card. And of course, we can't have a card without some bling. So I've just got a few basic rhinestone jewels here. So you can use whatever you've got in your craft stash. These are one of my go-tos. So I'm just going to stick a few of these. And I'm just pulling them off here with my Take a Pick tool. Super handy. You use this sticky end and it sticks right to the gem, and you can just slide it on off and get that positioned perfectly. Now that I said that, that one's going to be fussy. But there we go. So there is our card for our Stamp of the Month Fun Fold using the Frosted Gingerbread. And I just love it. Isn't it adorable? Okay. So thank you everybody for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed watching along this video and are excited to give one of these cards a try yourself. So until we meet again, thank you for being here. Have a wonderful crafty day. Cheers!